Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So this is part 3 of this ultimate talent guide I'm doing, where we're covering basically every single units in the game, every single leader, every single unit, every single spell, and we're going to talk about all the different available talent and maybe find out which one's the best, or at least which one's the best for you guys. So yeah, let's get into it. We have a lot to cover, but before we do so, please guys, if this is useful for you guys, if you guys love the content, please leave a like and subscribe. And yeah, also tell me if I was wrong about any of those picks. I haven't seen every single talent in game, but I think I have a pretty good idea of which talent are the best. But yeah, without further ado here, let's get into it. So we're starting off with all of the leaders, and the first one is Maeve, right? So Maeve, Shadow Song. Maeve has some, I would say, decent talent, but not great. We have, first of all, Enveloping Shadows, where she casts a smoke bomb on deploy, stealthing nearby allies. So this can be good if you don't have other stealth units. It's obviously really good also if you're pushing the enemy base and you want to stealth some maybe your Quillbore or some other unbound units. This can be good for that purpose, but keep in mind that this smoke bomb is only a 1-cost spell, right? So basically it's kind of a little bit like a 1-cost less for Maeve, right? So she would be like a 5-cost instead of a 6-cost. That's one way of seeing it. But yeah, it's okay. It's pretty good, I would say, but not great. Then we have Shadow Step. Periodically teleport to a ranged attacker when hit. So the issue with this one is that when we're playing Maeve, most of the time we don't want her to switch targets, because if she locks onto a tower and then or to an important unit, we don't want her to teleport to a ranged target, because we might end up doing less damage to turrets, less damage to the base. But maybe down the line with some other units that are going to come out, maybe like a new Maeve archetype could came out and would make this talent better. But for now, I really don't suggest it. And then we have Remorseless, where she deals double damage for 2 seconds after killing an enemy. So basically, that's the one I went for, because I thought if I kill an enemy while pushing the base, well, then we're going to deal much more damage on the base, right? But the issue is, most of the time when you kill an enemy, 2 seconds is not long at all. So even if you kill an enemy, it's really hard to get that extra damage onto a turret, right? So sometimes it's good against like raptors, where you're going to kill one and then one shot the other and then one shot the other once again, for stuff like that. But for the purpose of pushing as much damage as possible on the enemy base with those unbound lists right now, which are really popular in the meta, I would suggest going for Enveloping Shadows. So that's my pick for Maeve. But yeah, Remorseless could work as well. Just maybe not go for Shadow Step, even if it's pretty cool. Our next leader is Janna, right? So Janna has some better talents than our last leader. Her first one is Blink, where she periodically teleports away from the attacker. So this is, I guess, kind of similar to the other talent for Maeve. I think this one is probably the weakest out of the 3, because if you place well your Janna, she's probably never going to blink away. So it's kind of rewarding bad plays, which I'm not fond of. Instead, I would go for either of the other 2. So Clear Casting spell costs 1 less, but no less than 1 if played immediately after Janna. So it's not exactly a 1 gold less, but if we follow this very simple step of playing Janna, immediately playing the Blizzard, then it's a 3-cost Blizzard. And when you play your Blizzard, you want to play Janna first anyway. So yeah, it can be very good to deal like a lot of damage with Blizzard. So Blizzard is probably the best spell in the game right now. But yeah. And then we have Flurry. So Frostbolt, burst on impact, frosting enemies near the target. So this is actually better than I thought, because that Frostbolt is applying a lot of AoE. So this is really good to deal with all of those swarm units. So I went for Flurry, but I would suggest going for Clear Casting. I think there's more decks using this talent instead of Flurry, but it's up to your choice. Next up, we have Tyrion. So Tyrion is my favorite alliance leader, and he has some dope talents. The first one, Divine Shield, where he gains magical shield at 30% health, absorbing all damage for 5 seconds. So this 5 seconds is a lot of time. This means he can tank so much once he reached 30% health. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I know for Abomination, he's going to cast again his thing if he heals up and then goes back down. But I think you could trigger it more than once. Please tell me down below if you guys have the answer, because that's not the one I picked, but this is definitely a strong one. We also have Consecrate, which I believe is a spell in Hearthstone, where he's going to regularly consecrate the ground, damaging enemies within. So this having an AoE ability from Tyrion is pretty good because his biggest weakness is all of those big swarm units that can surround him. So yeah, well, there's other weakness for Tyrion if he's played alone, but this helps for one of them. And then finally we have By the Light, where he heals the primary target for twice as much. This is the one I picked. It's also the one I would suggest because I like to play Tyrion in some big healing deck. Watch my channel for the dual lane push deck that I created. This is my favorite deck right now, so I took By the Light, but any of the 3 talents are fantastic here, I think, so it's up to your preference. So, like I said, By the Light is the one I picked, but go for either one. Next up, we are jumping into the units and spells. So the first one we have is Arcane Blast. So you guys are familiar with Arcane Blast. You have the possibility of playing it over and over again, but for an increased cost. So yeah, Arcane Blast, I love this spell a lot. I love the utility, the fact that you can play it in a lot of different scenarios. And here the talents, we have Amplification, where sequential tap increase the radius by 1. So this is okay. Normally, all the units are already bunched in by the first time you're playing the Arcane Blast, and then if you're only playing it once, well, basically we're not getting any value. So Amplification is okay. So and then we have Torrent, where Arcane Blast gain a level after casting a rank 4 spell. After casting your rank 4. So this to me is not really good because most of the time that I'm playing Arcane Blast, I'm not playing the 4th rank. I'm stopping maybe at like 2 or 3. So to have this talent be really useful, you would have to play it over and over and over. And this is a lot of gold, right? It's 4 plus 3, but 3 plus 2 plus 1. So it's 10 gold just to gain a single level. And then we have Arcane Power, where spell sequences starts at rank 3 and ends at rank 4, which I completely despise because I like to have that versatility of playing like your 1st rank or 2nd rank to deal with some swarmy units, and then we're just losing them. And plus, like a rank 1 and a rank 2 is pretty much equivalent to a rank 3, which costs the same. So I feel like all those talents are mediocre. So for me, the lesser of the evil is Amplification, because we always get value if we use it more than once. But I wouldn't suggest to push too much for Arcane Blast upgrades. Next up, we have Blizzard. So Blizzard is the best spell in the game, in my opinion, right now. It just has so much versatility. It slows. It damages so much. And yeah, Blizzard has also some pretty good talent. The first one we have Ice Crown, where we summon an additional Blizzard at your base. So obviously this is made to be played defensively, but when you combine both your Blizzard and the one from Ice Crown, basically you can deal with some big push for only 4 gold. But the issue is it's only in dire situation where we're already getting pushed way too much. Next up, Cold Snap. So now the Blizzard is going to freeze enemy troops in place. To me, this isn't too useful because normally Blizzard should deal so much damage that we're just going to kill the units. So it's not necessary to freeze them in place. So yeah, Cold Snap I wouldn't go for. But Brittle Ice, that one is pretty good as well, where enemies within take 30% additional damage from physical source. So if you play the Blizzard and you have your Footman, let's say, in the Blizzard, well then your army is basically gonna tear theirs, right? So Brittle Ice can work, but for me, I love the Ice Crown one a lot. So that's my suggested pick. But yeah, choose at your make your own decision on that one. Next up, we have one of the best units also, the Defias Bandits. The Defias Bandits cost only 1 gold. And here with the talents, we have Deadly Poison, where they're going to gain poison, right? So poison is good. Poison is extra damage. They don't have much damage by themselves already. So poison helps a lot with that. That's a good talent. We then have Pick Lock, where we earn extra +2 gold when opening chests. This is my favorite, and I think this one is the best because I think by themselves, they already do their job really well, that we don't really need to add something else. But now, when we open the chest, and it's pretty easy to get the chest, especially on this current map, this current PvP map, well, then we're going to get +2 gold and have a big lead from our opponent, or a big gold lead from our opponent. So yeah, Picklock's really good. And then we have Last Resort, where on death, stun the targets for 3 seconds. To me, I feel like this is unnecessary because we're already stunning the targets so much just by playing the bandits themselves. They're going to stun over and over before they die. And I think it's just overkill having them stunning even after death. So my pick here is definitely going for the Pick Lock. Next up, we have one of my favorite units from one of my best deck. It's the Footman. So the Footman, really good armored unit, and they have great talent. The first one, Shield Bash, where they periodically stun the target for 1 second. So this can be really good. To me, if you're playing the Defias Bandit, you already have a stun. You don't really need Shield Bash as well. But if you're not, it could be a really good option. So yeah, a very good talent here. We have Fortification, where they gain 30% extra empty health. So obviously, this is very niche, where we're going to have to play them in a healing deck, or basically it's a dead talent. But when you play them in a healing deck, it's incredible because it's basically a 30% increased max health, which is huge because that health is also armored. So yeah, they become so much more tanky with just that. And then we have Last Stand, where armor increased to 75 damage reduction when no other footmen are nearby. So obviously the idea behind that one is to play it and split them, right? We want to split them as much as possible. And then that's where their armor is going to go to 75%. But to me, all of these talents are very, very good. But I suggest going for Fortification if you have that healing deck with Tyrion, with the Shaman, stuff like that. I think Fortification is just a bit better. But all of these are great. So any of these picks are good picks. Next up, we have the Griffin Rider. So the Griffin Rider is a very good unit, in my opinion, as well. I think Alliance have some good units right now in the meta. What about the talents? We have Airdrop, where periodically drop a potion, leveling up the first ally to touch it. So to me, I feel like levels aren't really that strong right now in the current meta. So having like an extra level, I mean, it's good if if it's your base level, but this, I don't think it's worth it. You can see with like your Thalnos having 3 extra level and your opponent doesn't do that much of a difference. But yeah, I guess it's not bad, right? It's so much better than not having it. I will go instead for Odin's Fury, where basically the Griffin Rider gains Fury, which means it's going to become an extremely dangerous DPS for your opponent. If your opponent doesn't deal with it, they're screwed completely. So I think Odin's Fury is really good. And then we have Mighty Throw, where we gain +3 range. So this is good if you think you're always missing out on range. You can play Mighty Throw, but for me, I feel like the best talent here is by far Odin's Fury. By far Odin's Fury, and that's my pick for you guys. Next up, we have the Harvest Golem. So Harvest Golem, we know they die and then they respawn. And then we have the talents. The first one, we have the Trojan Chicken, where on death spawn 4 angry chicken. I mean, this is mostly funny, but I don't know if it's extremely good. But I would say it's pretty decent because some of the times those 4 angry chicken are going to allow a little bit more tankiness, a little bit more damage. So it could be fairly good in some niche situation. Then we have Unstable Core, where on death, stun nearby enemies for 3 seconds. Once again, stunning on death, I feel is a little bit too clunky because normally when you die, you already lost the battle. So stunning doesn't get a lot of value. Even sometimes it allows your opponent to heal more and stuff like that. But obviously there's some cases where your backline can finish them off. But yeah, to me, stunning on death is not great right now in the meta. And then we have Bountiful Harvest, where on death, apply a heal over time effect to nearby allies. I mean, this can be good, but your nearby allies, let's say if it's a backline, your backline should be at full health probably. So I haven't found a lot of scenarios where Bountiful Harvest is much better, but I think it's kind of it's the kind of unit that we haven't figured out all the talents as of yet, and we haven't figured out really his place in the meta. Personally, I love the Trojan Chicken, especially for the memes, so I'm going for that pick. But I think just the 4 Angry Chicken can have some value. Yeah. Next up, we have a spell. We have Holy Nova. I think Holy Nova is not too great right now in the meta. Has some very niches play with some talents. But yeah, let's go into the talents. Inner Fire. So affected allies gain armored and resist for 5 seconds. So right, this makes everything very much more tanky. To me, this is kind of like a cheat death where basically we're just stopping our units from dying for like a few seconds. So yeah, this can work if you're playing a little bit like a cheat death. So let's say you're pushing, you have a lot of things going on in the enemy base, and then your enemy is playing a blizzard, and hopefully he's trying to destroy your whole push. Well, you can Holy Nova, and then your push is gonna stick alive, right? So Inner Fire can work really well, but to me, Holy Nova already does this job with the next talent, the Renew talent, where it also adds a heal over time to allies. So for me, Renew does Inner Fire what Inner Fire does, but better, because it's going to have just more scenario where this is going to be useful. It's going to keep our units alive for longer. And yeah, just more healing is just great. And then we have Amplify Magic, where effect are double on all elemental minis. So this is obviously really good in all those elemental decks. So I'm thinking about General Drakisath lists. But they're not really strong in the meta as of yet. So for me, I would go with the Renew talent here. But please keep in mind that Inner Fire can be good as well. Next up, we have the Huntress. Huntress, great, fantastic unit, which has 2 fantastic talents. Or 3. I think even Shadow Mail could be good. But Darnassan Steel, where Glaive bounces an additional 3 times. This is freaking good. Because if, let's say, you hit all 6 hits, that's twice as much damage, which is very, very crazy. It's much more damage than our Elven might here. And yeah, plus some of the times, having additional 3 bounds doesn't only mean 3 extra targets. It also means that backline has way more chance of being hit. Because if their units are a little bit in the line, somehow that Glaive is going to reach the Pyromancer, all of the Murlocs, all of the stuff like that. So Darnassan Steel is very, very good. And then we have our Elven Might, the other talent, which is also fantastic, where deal 50% additional damage to the initial target. So this obviously isn't as much damage as the other one, considering the other one is 100% more damage, but it's a guaranteed 50% damage at all time, which is really, really good, because to me, if your opponent knows you're playing Darnassan Steel, they're going to play their unit differently, and then it's going to be very hard to hit that backline, even you have the extra bounce, right? So I think it's good to get Darnassan Steel is just a little bit better against weaker player, but against stronger player, I think Elven Might is better because it's guaranteed, right? We also have Shadow Mail, where she gains stealth and ambush, which can be very good in some like rush down aggro lists. But to me, Elven Might is so freaking good, and it works in every single list, and it's going to be very good in every single list. Next up, we have the Mountaineer. I think that's how it's pronounced. And his talents. First one, Frenzied Spirit. When the bear or Mountaineer die, the other gain Bloodlust. So this is actually pretty good in my opinion. Bloodlust, I think it's 30% attack speed and movement speed. But yeah, a lot of times the opponent is going to play something to destroy the Mountaineer first, because that's the best thing to do, destroy the Mountaineer, and then the bear is going to be easy to deal with. But now you have a Bloodlust bear, is going to be very tough to deal with that, and you're going to have to spend much more gold, and you're going to take much more damage to deal with that. We then have Man Pets, where when he heals his bear, he's actually going to heal up to 3 additional nearby beasts, which is only good if you're playing beast lists. So very, very niche. But if you guys are playing it in that type of list, you can do that. And then we have Intimidation, where the bear gain taunts, obviously making the Mountaineer harder to kill. But spells are still there. Unbound units. I guess it helps for unbound units. But still, I think regardless, the best talent here is Frenzied Spirit. Next up, we have the Safe Pilot, which is an unbound unit, very good unbound unit that is played a lot in those unbound lists, especially with the first talent, Gnomish Cloaking Device, where when she deploys from explosion with stealth and ambush. This means that she won't only crash in the enemy backline or on the enemy tower, but she's basically going to have a free hit as well, which is very good. And that hit is going to be enhanced from the ambush. So if you play it on the enemy base, you're not only going to get the explosion from the damage from the explosion, but also an extra hit, which is a lot of damage. When you crash into a backline, you normally get destroyed if you don't have that talent, so that talent is very good. We then have Coming in Hot, where deploy twice as fast and burn nearby enemies. The issue with this one is that if you're playing it really well, you can predict exactly where units will be. I feel like this is just useless. But if you're having a hard time landing your hits, well, then it becomes very good. And then finally, we have Gnomish Mutanizer, which polymorphs the first blasted target. This can be good if you want to play, if you're playing against Gargoyle, if you're playing against a Molten Giant and other big stuff like that. But it's very, very niche, and sometimes she's going to hit something else. So for me, the best talent here is Gnomish Cloaking Device. Has so much more versatility to be played in those unbound lists, and just to destroy backline very, very easily. And then finally, our last alliance unit we have here is the Wargan, which is an unbound unit that is stealth and I believe has ambush as well. So the Wargan is really good because he's played in all those unbound lists right now. And what is the best talent for me? Well, I guess we'll check them. The first one, Lone Wolf, on deploy, grant 1 gold if no allies are nearby. So that means he's basically a 2 costs if you play him correctly, which is really, really good. And then we have Premeditation, where increase ambush damage by 50%. So this is the one I would go for. If you're trying to snipe something in the back line, you're going to one-shot it. If you're hitting a tower, you're going to deal more damage to the tower. So I think Premeditation is just so good, especially in those unbound lists, and that's where the Wargan is played right now. And then we have Frenzy, where on kill, gain Bloodlust for 10 seconds. This can be good, but most of the times you're going to play it to a tower, or a lot of the times, and then Frenzy is not even going to trigger. So to me, I would go with Premeditation here, and I think it's a very, very good talent, and I think it's a perfect place to stop this Alliance, part 3 of this Ultimate Talent Guide, which is the Alliance part. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. We still have 2 more parts to go. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.